bring it back to you for this question.
Okay.
Do you think that America is divided right now? And if yes, what's the cause?
I would say yes, and I think it's by design. I think it's intentional, and I feel that there's a movement that is trying to divide and conquer us. With the Second Amendment issue, um, it's really been under attack, and they've been chipping away at it for years. So I think we need to work together, and I guess band together, and not allow this division to continue and happen. Like I said earlier, I'm putting my cell phone number out there so that if anybody does have questions, that they can actually come to me, and I'll work with them and try to help them. I think it's important that you be able to call your representation.
Sure. Okay. Mike, same question to you. Is America divided right now? And if yes, what's the cause?
America is divided right now, but America's been divided for a long time. You're seeing more and more of it now because of social media and all the different networks. It's on full display because it's ratings. But we've gone from this idea of civility, of being able to have two different sets of opinions or ideas to accomplish the same goal, which has been thrown out the window really in the last 20 years. And if you disagree with somebody, they're, especially like Republicans, are being labeled, conservatives, as racist, bigots, homophobes. Even if it has nothing to do with it, whatever the topic is, they're labeled that in an attempt to smear them.
Sure.
And what I've learned is that with liberals, if they can't argue, if they can't compete with you in the arena of ideas, they immediately go to smear your reputation. And so that is part of what this divide is. And it's getting nasty out there. And I feel it every day. I'm sure Bob feels it every day. You're going to be feeling it every day. And it's really brutal. And it's a shame. And that's why it's so important to get more people engaged into the process, because there are a lot of people that don't want to be labeled. They don't want to stick their head above and get hammered with some of this nastiness, and so they stay low, they stay out. And I think that's also part of what my primary challenges are doing. They saw some of the heat that I took initially for standing up in Michigan, and they said, well, we don't want any part of that. We're going to just wait till this whole thing dies down and pop our heads back up again. And that doesn't help the divide.
Right.
So by getting more people engaged, more people involved, I think we'll see that divide start to go away. But one of the things that Dinesh D'Souza said, and he said it at our Lincoln Day dinner, he talked about dealing with the nasty. Mm-hmm. And he went back to history during the Civil War. And the Confederates came out and they issued a decree that they were going to shoot any black Union soldier on sight. So what Lincoln did is he came back and he put out a decree that they would shoot any Confederate officer, period, on sight. And they had to back off. It doesn't mean you have to be nasty back, but you've got to stand up. And I've put out some videos calling on Republicans to grow a backbone. Stand up. If you stand up to a bully, doesn't mean you have to be nasty, but stand up to them, that tends to go away. So that's how you cure that. Getting out, being accessible to the voters, getting more people involved, and I think you'll start to see that wane a little bit. That's my hope anyway.
Bob, same question to you. Is America divided right now? And if yes, what's the cause?
I feel most definitely, just like Rick and Mike has said, we're most definitely disengaged from each other. Even talking to each other has kind of gotten taboo on both sides of the issue. If you agree with the Democrat or if you agree with the Republican, you're ostracized within that party. And that's unfortunate, because back when I was growing up, you had cooperation, or you reach across the aisle and try to resolve an issue that was good for the American public. Now you don't do that, and I think the press has divided us so much, because there's a group of people that watch them and they believe everything they hear. That bothers me when factual information is misrepresented, and 50% of the population believes that. I want to do the right thing for the public. I want to represent the public. I'm not getting into politics, and I haven't been into politics for the money. It's been for the honor to serve the public, and my oath of office means a lot to me. So when you ask that question, when did it start? In my lifetime, I can look back into the 80s, and Republicans were dismissive. They're just a bunch of crazies. Well, they keep gaining ground, and they've gained ground over the last 25 to 35 years. So I think they've had a mission. Look at the colleges. Well, when you send your kids to college, who's educating them?
Yeah.
You know, and that's an issue because they're brainwashing our kids. And now we're here today fighting against this, and we're asking, how the heck did we get to this point where nobody has any common sense? And common sense issues should be the easiest, and the Second Amendment should be the easiest. You know, why do we fight so much about right to life? You know, I've got 3 daughters, 3 sisters. I've got a very strong wife, very strong mom, and they all support right to life. It's not about the women's right. We want to protect women, but why is that such a controversial issue when you talk about right to life issues? It's a huge problem. How do we ever get back to some sense where the press especially reports the truth, like Walter Cronkite? You know, his reporting, I can look back on that and you could trust what he said. What about tearing down some of our traditional monuments around the country?
Oh, that's
How do we ever get that? You know, that's our history. Whether, you know, if you want to go back to the Civil War, or there's some injustices out there that we all agree on, but that is our history. And
I've always said, when you discover one of those injustices, go build a bigger monument to correct it. Don't tear anything down.
Yes. So and we've stood by, and you see the liberal judges making these decisions to tear down these monuments. That's very, very offensive.
Sure.
Because the United States of America is the greatest country in the world.
So here's one thing, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to use air quotes, but I mean it too, though. It's one of those things. The Democrats are way better at the Republicans than one thing I've noticed. And that is when they go to Washington, D.C., or to Michigan, or even the county level, and they say, I am going to vote gun safety. I'm going to go after the guns. They do every single time. But here's what I've noticed with a lot of Republicans. They go to D.C. or Michigan or the county level, and they just sit back and play defense. They play defense. And the other side says, we want to compromise. So you know what they do? The other side says, we want to ban every gun. And then the Republicans come back and say, we'll compromise and let you only ban some guns. Will any of you, if you're elected to your office, actually go in there and say, no, a compromise would be this. If you want extra funding, we're going to get rid of this gun control law. Are you guys actually going to get some of our gun laws revoked rather than just sit there and play defense, would be my question.
That's actually a great idea to, like you say, hold up some funding. If they want something, we want our gun rights back. I think you're absolutely got something there, Micah.
Do you think they're more united as a whole? They always want to ban, but they never go back.
Well, it was like I was talking about earlier. They've slowly been chipping away our rights forever. Slowly. You know, and it's
the death of 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, I mean, they've slowly been chipping away these rights, because originally, like I said, we were supposed to be armed in the same fashion or even better than the government.
Good.
Because it's we the people, you know, and they've slowly taken that away from us. And we're to the point now where we can't allow any more. It's got to stop. We have to make a stand.
Great, that's a great question. And again, this goes back to my point about voters getting involved early on in the primaries, because what we tend to do is let the primaries go, and then we have less conservative Republicans get in, and then they do these things called what used to be a reach across the aisle to build on common ground without sacrificing core principles has now become, whenever you hear a Republican say reach across the aisle, it's code word for capitulate to the liberal cause.
Yes.
And I will not do that in Congress, period. And that's where it comes down to standing your ground, at what Rick was saying. You've got to stand your ground, otherwise you're going to lose ground. Republicans never gain ground when they reach across the aisle, and that's part of that divide that you had mentioned before. Yep. Democrats are united in their cause, and Republicans aren't. And that's a major, major issue. And the only way to solve that is we have to actually start electing true Republicans back into our elected offices.
So when you're in Washington, I'm hoping and expecting you're going to vote no on any gun control bill.
That's correct, 100%.
Okay. Now, are you also going to do what they've so successfully done and say, well, you guys want a little bit more money for this social program, let's just say. I know this is hypothetical, but I want to repeal this gun control law that you guys put through. Is that something you would work on to try to maybe get rid of?
I certainly wouldn't go the route of giving up more money for more welfare or more socialist. Every opportunity I have to start to repeal and pull back the infringements that we've already had,
Yes.
Every opportunity, I will take that. And you have to do it. And you've got to do it, you can't do it all in one shot. It's got to be done incrementally, consistently, all the time. And that's the only way you're ever going to get that repealed. Once you lose a right,
Yeah.
it's very hard, almost impossible to get it back. So you've got to have people in the respective legislatures and elected boards that will actually go there on a daily basis and work to try to unwind some of that catastrophe that's happened to us so far.
And in Michigan too, there's gun control laws that have been passed in Lansing. So are you just going to play defense, or are you going to try to maybe get a little bit back that they've already taken?
There's some, as far as negotiation, there's some things that are off the table. Period. You want to say to me, okay, if you want this social thing, let's take one gun back, like what you said.
Yeah.
No, we're not even going to start there. We're not even going to talk about that, because you can infringe on the Second Amendment. Period. There's no talking about that. There's no negotiation. Period. So as far as reaching across the aisle, I think there's some things that we can work on. But again, the Second Amendment is not one of them. Don't even bring that up in a conversation to me.
It's dead on arrival.
It's dead on arrival, because I will never ever negotiate Second Amendment rights like the red flag law. Don't even talk to me about that. I've been in the trenches. I know what happens. I've been there when we've had to take the police officers can take guns for 72 hours and they put it in the property room, and then the judge can order them back. But it's taken for protection. So the red flag law actually already exists. But now to give the Democrats and the liberal judges a chance to just come into your house and take guns, that is so wrong on many, many levels. And we got to protect ourselves there. But those are the type of laws we need to be repealed, things that don't make sense.
When we see what's going on in society, we see people with drunk driving problems, we see various things going on. Nobody talks about banning alcohol because of drunk driving. Nobody wants to take away Corvettes because of speeding. What's different about guns? And Mike, I'll let you go first.
Well, you answered your question. The guns themselves. The guns, and going back to what Bob and Rick said, the Second Amendment is the first line of defense to protect the entirety of the Constitution. That has nothing to do with Corvettes, and it's got nothing to do with Jack Daniels. So when guns are involved, it's always an excuse. If some crazy goes up and shoots a bunch of people, we got to take all the guns away. So, but again, that's the excuse, because if the Second Amendment crumbles, and I guarantee you that Nancy Pelosi, if she had her opportunity, she would rip up the entire Bill of Rights, just like she did the President's State of the Union speech, if she can get her hands on that document.